Hey everyone, Fledset here. In this video, I'll dive into some broken and nerfed modifiers, or modifier combos, that can make your run way easier. Since the devs keep fixing these buggy modifiers pretty often, don't sleep on them, use them while you still can. Today, I'm focusing mainly on modifiers that are supposed to make the game harder, but instead, they actually give you an advantage or add something interesting to the game. These include ones that don't function at all and just give you free multiplier, ones that are completely nerfed and make the game laughably easy, and even combos that make a modifier behave in a way it absolutely shouldn't. I'll also be looking at those that mess with entity spawn rates, like Rush, and either fail to increase them or even remove them completely. So yeah, if you're looking to boost your multiplier for free or just mess around with some weird mechanics, you're in the right place. Alright, let's get into it. First, we're starting with the basic ones before moving on to the real broken stuff. And FYI, in this video, I'm covering modifiers that have the biggest impact in the mines. First up, Wet Floor. This modifier used to do nothing, but it was recently fixed, meaning it's back in action. But here's the thing, the way they fixed it is kinda hilarious. Yeah, the floor is slightly slippery again, but the effect is so nerfed that you barely even notice it. But the real problem is when you enter a tunnel, you get stuck and are almost unable to move. It's annoying and takes forever to get out. It's like you get inflated, and that's not how a slippery floor should work. So this modifier is still or again broken. This issue only happens in the mines, since there are no tunnels in the hotel. Luckily, this weird effect only applies to non-essential tunnels, meaning ones where there's an alternative path. It doesn't happen in water tunnel rooms or tunnels during the Seek chase. But be careful, there's still a chance to get stuck in the nest with the Grumbles. That area usually has two paths, one through a tunnel and another through vines that you have to cut through. Next, modifiers that mess with the lights. Let's focus on two that seem to be broken or have no effect at all. I tested a bunch of different combinations and played through multiple runs while tracking the results, and I came to the conclusion that bad electrical work and power shortage have no real effect in the mines. The number of dark rooms stayed pretty much the same with any of them enabled, just like in games where I played without any of these modifiers. I'm not counting rooms that went dark because of Rush, or the ones affected by Gloombats. So the result is that, even when taking some randomness into account, the number of dark rooms was nearly identical whether I played with bad electrical work, power shortage, or no light-related modifiers at all. So yeah, these modifiers basically give you a free 10% or 15% without actually doing anything. Another expected effect is that using bad electrical work should make entities like Rush and Ambush spawn less frequently since dark rooms prevent them from appearing, even if you stack it with Rush Hour, Bad Time, or Worst Time Ever. This assumption is correct, and might have worked earlier. But since these modifiers seem to be completely broken and don't actually increase the number of dark rooms, this is no longer the case. My test runs with different modifier sets confirmed this. The spawn rate of entities while using bad electrical work was nearly the same as when using power shortage, lights out, or even playing without any light-related modifiers at all. The same goes for combinations with Rush Hour and Worst Time Ever. I tested them many times, and the results were always consistent. I spent a lot of hours running different setups to get reliable results, and the final conclusion is clear. At the moment, bad electrical work does not reduce entity spawns because it doesn't actually increase the number of dark rooms in the mines. Alright, let's get to the modifiers and combos you're probably most interested in. The ones that increase, or since they're broken, actually decrease the spawn rates of entities like Rush and Ambush. I was focusing mainly on Worst Time Ever, Rush Hour, and Back for Seconds, and what I found might surprise you. Let's dive in. I ran a ton of games with Worst Time Ever alone, Rush Hour alone, different combinations of both, also with Back for Seconds along with various other sets. The results were interesting. Back for Seconds works exactly as expected. It spawns Ambush more often, nothing unusual there. But the real surprise is how Worst Time Ever behaves. In its current state, it's not even a difficult modifier. It turns out it does not increase the number of ambushes at all. Ambush appears once, maybe twice, or sometimes not at all, depending on the random factor you get. Basically, the same as playing without modifiers. The only thing it actually does is increase the number of rush spawns. On average, I've got between 8 and 11 rushes before the first Seek chase. Without any modifiers, the typical number of rush spawns before Seek was 1 to 3. So that means Worst Time Ever is actually an easy 25% modifier that only increases rush spawns while doing nothing to ambush. An even more interesting discovery is how Rush Hour actually works. The result? It doesn't work at all. In the mines, Rush Hour doesn't add any extra rush spawns. The average number of rush encounters was exactly the same whether the modifier was enabled or not. The same goes for combining it with Worst Time Ever. The number of rushes with Rush Hour plus Worst Time Ever was almost identical to playing with Worst Time Ever alone. So yeah, Rush Hour in the mines is completely broken and does absolutely nothing. So the final result is this. Back for Seconds works as intended. Worst Time Ever actually behaves like I expect Rush Hour should work. And Rush Hour doesn't work at all. It doesn't add any extra rush spawns whatsoever. All the other rush and ambush related modifiers seem to work correctly. Faster rush, faster ambush, and rush without emitting any sounds all function as intended. The same goes for again and again and again, which makes ambush repeat approximately every 40 seconds from Door 7 onward without rebounding. And yeah, this one was finally patched. I didn't test Bad Time or Really Bad Time, since Worst Time Ever is by far the most interesting one from this group. Also, as I said, I tested all of these exclusively in the mines, so the effect in the hotel might be different, but that's something we can take a closer look at in another video. So using these modifiers lets you max out your multiplier effortlessly. A good example setup is Worst Time Ever, 25%, Rush Hour, 10%, and Power Shortage, 15%. But since Rush Hour and Power Shortage don't work at all, the actual effect is the same as just using good old Rush Hour alone. That means you're getting a free 50% boost for almost nothing, which is insane. So if you want to take advantage of this, do it now before the devs do something. But that's not all. Let me share a few more interesting modifier combos. With this next setup, you can completely remove Rush from spawning. The combination of Room for More and Blitz does the trick. Instead of Rush, you'll always get Blitz, A60 or A120 spawning instead. You can also combine it with Worst Time Ever, and in most games, Rush won't show up at all. I'm not saying this makes the game easier, but this is how it works right now. Also, if you enable Faster Rush or Rush without sound, the effect applies to Blitz, A60, and A120 as well. So yeah, removing Rush doesn't mean you can use his other modifiers for free. The last set of broken modifiers for the mines won't make the game easier, but it definitely adds some fun and challenge. I'm talking about the random modifiers. Adding these in the mines can actually bring in modifiers that are normally only available in the hotel, like Key or Make Haste. As I said, this doesn't make the game any easier, but it adds a fun element to your run while introducing locked modifiers into the game. Definitely worth trying out. And that's it for today. Don't wait too long to test out these modifiers and combos, because bugs and broken modifiers like these will definitely get patched or updated soon. I'm sure there are even more out there, so if you've come across any, drop them in the comments and I'll be happy to check them out. If you enjoyed this video, I can do a similar deep dive into the hotel, so don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss it. Thanks for watching.